So starting out where you guys started, being from the founding leadership team, what were those early days like, particularly if you knew or you felt the pressure of perhaps Amazon maybe entering this market? Did you feel that pressure, and how was managing that pressure and delivering some sort of scalability in those early days?
I think the early days of Souk were probably the best days of my entire career.
Wow.
And that's like 25 years of working. And literally these years were the best. We were in a small office in Media City, 6 people, and no one had particularly a title or a role, but we were all genuinely focused on one only problem, which is solving the customer problem of how can we get more selection at a better price. So when you say were you focused on Amazon entering the market, I have to admit we really didn't think of that at all. We were just focused on building our own Amazon of the Middle East, and super focused on 4 key problems, and these were the customer problems in the Middle East. Is like, how can I get selection, how can I get it at a better price, how can I get it quickly, and then the other problem which we were also focused on is like, how do we actually convince the customers to buy online, because people were not wanting to buy online. So if you think about it, it was 2 really big problems. One is, how do you convince the brands and the retailers to sell online, and how do you convince the customer, hey, you know what, it's okay, it's safe to buy online. And hence literally what we were doing was breaking up every problem, and because we were building the entire ecosystem, so we built solutions for each of those problems. So for example, on selection, we would go knock on every retailer door and convince them that actually putting your selection online is not going to cannibalize from your store.
Right.
Convincing every brand from Apple all the way to, the Adidas of the world, that working with the distributor and working with your franchisee, because the ecosystem in our region was primarily licensees and franchisees, that will not disrupt your full ecosystem, but will actually only increase it and implement it. And then all the problems of, okay, how can we deliver? Let's build a delivery company. How do we do payment? Everyone wanted to pay cash on delivery only. How do we convince them to pay credit card? Oh, let's build a payment company, which was Payforth at the time. How do we convince customers to buy online? Hey, let's create a big event, which was White Friday. So literally everything we've done was a solution to a problem that we faced.
That's crazy. Every time you ran into a problem, you built a company to solve that problem.
Correct.
What kind of mindset does it take to do it that way and not just like figure it out some other way by maybe outsourcing?
I mean, we were a bunch of engineers, except me, but Ronaldo Mshahwar is an amazing engineer. And hence we had also an amazing team of technology people who were based in Jordan. So everyone was from the region. We didn't import any talent or any technology, and we built it. And I have to say that team is actually not only built Souk.com, but later on when we talk about Amazon, this team sitting in Jordan of Arabic engineers continue to build to solve problems for Amazon worldwide, whether it be the language, from right to left and left to right, all the way to other technologies that is solving for now that I can't necessarily talk about.
So it's not just Amazon MENA, it's now actually Amazon.
It's actually Amazon Global. Absolutely.
We
solved problems for Amazon globally.
That's amazing.
Yes.
It's very interesting because I've spent a good 3 decades here, and the names that always stick as startups over here were Souk, Dubizzle, and they have kind of a legacy of their own. But a question perhaps would be is, first level, it's because I have seen this in India with Flipkart. They also copied the Amazon model, but they had some relevance that Vinny Bansal, the founder himself, was with Amazon previously. So probably he had the know-how, or probably a small amount of skill set. How was the challenges in starting and probably elaborating the Souk.com expansion in this region? And also would be interesting to know regarding if you were aware of Amazon perhaps being in the vicinity trying to enter the market.
So first of all, it's funny you mentioned names like Bini and Amazon at the time. We worked very closely. So you probably know the history of Souk. So it was originally funded by Samih Toukan and Hussam Khouri, two amazing Jordanian entrepreneurs. And I think these guys are literally the standard of entrepreneurship from our region. And Samih and Hussam originally built Yahoo.com. Because they had Maktub, so this was the first Arabic internet in the world that sold it to Yahoo. And then they said, Yahoo said, we don't want this small part of e-commerce, which is Souk.com, and that's how Souk started. And our key investor is Tiger Global. So Tiger also had investments in companies like Trendyol in Turkey, like Flipkart in India. So we learned a lot from all the other e-commerce that could have been a little bit ahead of us in the Middle East, and hence we brought these standards of excellence and learning. As a matter of fact, Kalyan, who is currently the CEO of Flipkart, was on our board of directors. And Kalyan, again, an amazing person, and I'm lucky to have worked with him, would sit on the table and say, hey guys, this is what's happening in India today. This is key success stories. And literally very deep dive to the extent, for example, just to give you an example, exclusive mobiles worked for Flipkart. So to get a mobile and sell it exclusively
through that channel
is something that was important. So we started re-implementing that, and we brought into the region so many value mobile phones from China, from India, from around the world, and that was the beginning of a particular category on Souk.com. And then we learned from Trendyol, how do we sell fashion? Not sure if we were ever successful in that one. That's a difficult one overall, but that's the kind of learning. So we definitely were, I think, very, very lucky to have someone like Tiger to bring not only the cash, but more importantly, the expertise from different similar markets and similar ecosystems to us. So, at the beginning when we were building Souk.com, the biggest, of course, customer problem was how do we get selection online? And you probably know the ecosystem in the Middle East was all tied up with big retailers and big groups. And they were very afraid because they are retailers. They had their stores in the malls. And hence, we literally had to go to every single one of these big groups and convince them that also putting your selection online is only going to increase your sales, because it's what the customer wants at the end of the day. And the customer was moving to buying online. And if you don't put that, your iPhone online or your Adidas online,
there's an opportunity
the
cost.
customer is going to buy it from somewhere else. And we had to show data of how the customers were literally buying on Amazon Global Store that same selection. And hence, we want to make sure that the customer is getting it from your own selection, from the local selection. So while Souk started initially as actually a marketplace, we faced two key challenges. We faced how do we build category by category. So we had to prioritize categories that were easier to go online. So customers are already familiar of buying it online, like electronics was easier to buy versus, beauty or consumables were more difficult to buy online.
Right.
So we had a really strong prioritization strategy of these categories. And then we literally took one by one and we switched back to retail. So we built what we called an anchor brand. So for example, if we want to build, mobile phones, mobile devices, we had anchor brands, iPhone, Samsung, Huawei, Honor, and then we started to complement these with exclusive brands. Let's bring Infinix from wherever. So that was a very important, where we actually had to switch to investing and buying and taking some risks in a category by category. Let's buy a little bit more of, L'Oreal or Lancôme. Let's buy some from Procter & Gamble to establish the grocery online, and so forth. So there was a lot of retail building category by category. But once you establish the anchor brand, we would then be able to go to all of the sellers of these categories to bring the rest of the long tail of the selection. But then we had to solve another problem for the sellers. Sellers are small businesses, right, in UAE or in Saudi. And hence at the time, It's like, how do I take a picture? How do I write a description of the content? How do I deliver my items to your warehouse? And so forth. So hence, we moved from retail to, again, marketplace, which opening it up to encourage sellers to come, but solving the problems of the sellers from the abilities to sell online. And that's really building the entire ecosystem of Souk here. So what we were focused on is solving these two problems. How do we establish category by category? And then how do we solve the seller's problem to come and sell online? So we were building that entire ecosystem. And that's why when Amazon came and looked at the Middle East and looked at, okay, this is really a fast growing, because they could see the glance views from the Middle East on Amazon Global Store. So there's definitely a high demand. But then Amazon is Amazon. They did the math. It's like, do I actually go ahead and rebuild that entire ecosystem? Or there is this company, Souk.com, that has done a really good job of understanding the customer, solving their problems, building the solutions for these problems. And that's why Amazon acquired us. By the way, we're the only company of e-commerce that Amazon fully acquires 100% and migrates and integrates into an Amazon. So that's the uniqueness that we've built in the region.